The Atlanta Falcons have a trio of stars in Michael Penix, Drake London, and Bijan Robinson that get you excited about this team's future, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. Drake London, especially when Michael Penix took under center. I mean, that guy was performing about as well as any wide receiver in football outside of maybe Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. Like he was performing at a top 5 rate with Michael Penix, and that Panthers game was something special. And then Bijan Robinson goes out there and kind of puts the stats to what the eye test we thought as a rookie. The stats were finally catching up to his eye test. He got a passing game that took some pressure off him, running behind that offensive line. He was more of a threat in the passing game. He had close to 2,000 total yards from scrimmage, and he looked like, I would say, a top 3 running back in football. But Alex, which one of those two, coming off 2 career years earlier in their respective careers, is more important, more valuable to the Atlanta Falcons?
This comes from a guy on Twitter who asked a poll, who is more valuable? That was the question. That's simple. And Bijan Robinson, this is like 2,000 votes. So it's a big enough sample size that people actually believe this. Bijan Robinson was garnering upwards of 67 to 60 to 70% of the votes. And Drake London, obviously 30% of the votes. You guys have no idea what you're talking about. Bijan Robinson is a better running back than Drake London is a wide receiver. I have no problem admitting that. I do believe that. It still doesn't matter. It does not matter at all. Drake London is probably more valuable than just about every single running back not named Saquon Barkley. And even then, he might have a case, because wide receivers are just more valuable than running backs. It's that simple. You don't have to dig into it that much. It's cut and dry. The best receivers in football are infinitely more valuable than the best running backs. Go down the list. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, those were probably the best 2 this year. Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley. It's not even close. It's not even close.
Yeah, I don't know how many times we have to do this with Bijan Robinson. And listen, I have a Bijan Robinson. He's the only Falcons jersey that I have. Like, no, I'm a ginormous Bijan Robinson fan. He's incredibly fun to watch. You know, I'm also a ginormous Saquon Barkley fan, who just signed for 3 years, $27 million. I mean, when these two guys' contracts are up, they're not even going to be close. They're not even going to be close to similar. So if we're talking straight value, like any argument that you have, I will play the trump card when these guys re-sign with hopefully the Falcons. And Drake London is not going to just be more. It's probably going to be double as much, maybe even more than double as much as Bijan Robinson. And that's just the nature of the position, guys. I don't know how many times we do this same thing where a lot of people will comment on these videos that we make about Jalen Carter when we're doing this and like, yeah, you're so wrong about Bijan. Guys, what are you talking about? Like when Jalen Carter gets paid $150 million and Bijan Robinson gets paid $50, that's an NFL GM telling you he's 3 times more valuable. So these aren't conversations that are legitimate outside of your infatuation for a particular player. And I love Bijan. I'm not trying to trade Bijan. I'm not trying to take anything away from Bijan Robinson, but we said it the other day when we're talking about Jalen Carter. Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley, the 2 best running backs in football this season, just signed for combined under $50 million. Like, I'm sorry, but like, can we not wrap our hand around the positional value? Like, if you stuck Tyler Algier behind this Falcons offensive line or Tyler Algier behind the Eagles offensive line, the Eagles still win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, they still win the Super Bowl. As great as Saquon Barkley is, as great as Bijan Robinson is, there's so much else that goes into an effective rushing attack, and there's so much else that goes into winning, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So it's not taking away from these guys. They're the best at what they do, and they get paid very handsomely, $10 million a year. They chump change, and I think with these guys' performances like Bijan and their ability in the passing game, their contracts will be bigger than they have been before, especially with Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley toting the ruck and having as much of an impact. But they're still not top wide receiver, top defensive lineman. Like, there's positional value. These guys are going to get paid more. So
this isn't like made up. That's something that's made up. The NFL tells you who is the most valuable based on who gets paid the most. And running backs, I guess to a certain extent, that conversation is muted when we get to kickers because they are paid the least and they are not the least valuable players on a football team, in my opinion. Kickers do matter. Special teams do matter. Running backs, talking offense and defense only. Running backs are bottom 3 least valuable positions in terms of being able to replace that production at a fraction of the price. That was the whole argument behind the Bijan Robinson draft pick, because you had a guy in Tyler Algier who's coming off a historic rookie campaign for the Atlanta Falcons, who was a 5th-round draft pick, who we were paying nothing, virtually nothing. And then we decided to effectively neutralize that contract by giving Bijan Robinson top 10 money. The whole idea behind the positional value is how you can replace that production at a fraction of the cost. And you can go look at the highest paid players, whether it's by AAV, total guarantees, or just the average that the position is being paid. And running back is one of the least paid positions in the NFL. And quite frankly, in terms of the receiver conversation, it's not close. Like, the highest paid receivers are closer to quarterbacks than they are the bottom. It's not even close.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's just funny that we have these conversations because it really is no absolute disrespect to any of the guys.
Bijan Robinson is arguably my favorite player to watch for the Atlanta Falcons. We'll see. Michael Penix probably easily take the cake. But in terms of, non-quarterbacks, Bijan Robinson is far more entertaining than Drake London.
I'm not a jersey guy.
Bijan Robinson is a better running back than Drake London is a wide receiver. If you stacked up the running backs, Bijan Robinson is firmly in the top 5. Drake London is not a top 5 receiver. Now, you said with Michael Penix, he was. There is an argument for that. But in their entireties, Drake London is nowhere close to the wide receiver that Bijan Robinson is the running back. And even still, it's not even close.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, we're talking about like Darnell Mooney and Bijan Robinson.
That's a better conversation.
Like that, I'll give you Bijan Robinson. But it's not as close. It's not as big of a gap as Drake London and Bijan Robinson. Like, that's the positional value that we were trying to discuss. I'm not a jersey guy. Only jersey I have, Bijan Robinson. Love him. But this is not an accurate representation of their respective values.